I'm actually a commercial farmer. My husband and I, David, we operate 2 apple orchards out in the Yarra Valley. We're a bit bigger than a lot of people we've heard from before. We actually have 70 hectares, which is tiny, of which 25 hectares of that is commercial orchards. We operate the farms that were originally operated by David's parents and uncles. We provide local employment for our two permanent employees in addition to ourselves, and we have a crew of part-time workers who assist us in our packing shed. We pack fruit for the dreaded Coles supermarket. No, they're not really that bad. We deal with them on a weekly basis. We employ a lot more people during our harvest time, and this year we will be having people come to our farm under the Pacific Seasonal Worker Program, which is assisting some of the Pacific nations with employment programs where islanders can come to our farms and farms within Australia for up to 7 months. It's not a cheap labour scheme by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's probably more expensive than employing local labour. However, we have so much trouble getting labour during our harvest season that fortunately the federal government has decided to assist horticulturists in particular in setting up a scheme so that it's going to be a win-win for the horticultural producers in Australia and also for the island nations who have a lot of difficulty getting hard cash into their economies. We use considerable services. We use agronomists, transport, chemical resellers. Yes, we're not organic. We actually have conventional farming. When I say we're conventional farmers, we use integrated pest management, but it does need the backup of pesticides. A lot of people think that integrated pest management doesn't involve pesticides. It does. Okay. We also employ nursery people and mechanics. Most of these people are in our community out in the Yarra Valley. So not only do we employ our people on farm, we provide employment for other people in our area. Some history of the Finger family. We've been on the move. Religious refugees came out and started farming in all places, Wattle Road, Hawthorn. Moved to an orchard property in King Street, Waldo, now known as Doncaster. That was a German name. German names weren't very popular during the war. Fingers basically are Germans. Moved again to another orchard property, Mountain Highway in Montana, site of the Knox Hospital, what was the drive-in out there, which is now Montana Health. All of that area was orchard land, same as Doncaster. New directions, they moved out to Hull Road in Murrelbach and commenced dairy farming as share farmers. But development pressure necessitated another move. In the 1950s, they moved out to Launching Place, and there was no electricity and no running water. I think the electricity was put on at Launching Place in about 1963. So it was quite a move around the place. This is Launching Place. That's one farm there. We have another farm up there. And this is another farm here that we run. We're lucky we've got that tree line that goes through there is actually the Hoddles Creek, and we're actually protected and tucked away a bit from the urban development in Launching Place. Our place, next to the football ground, is Green Wedge. I think the 2 farm properties where the orchards are rural conservation. So that's quite an interesting mix of what you can and what you can't do on the land. I think on our property where we are in the Green Wedge, I think we can put something like 3 B&Bs on our place without a permit, but as was noted before, we can't sell jams and things at our orchards. Really weird. Basically, surviving in farm businesses. The farms are businesses. It has its lifestyle factors, but we need to make a profit in order to survive. All businesses need to adapt to change, and farming is no different. There's community expectations. Everyone loves a new product. We've actually gone into new varieties of apples, because that's what we are. We are monoculturalists, I think you call it. But we also have a hobby farm at home where we've got some sheep eating the grass, not currently under orchard. That was a great idea. We were going to have the sheep in the orchard till we found the sheep that we had were more like goats and they wanted to eat all the apple trees. So they got removed back to home. If you ever want to test your fences, get a few sheep. We've both come from farming families. My family were also apple orchards in the Yarra Valley. I don't know what that says about my mental abilities to actually stay in a farming family. Sometimes it's difficult. And as I said, we supply to the major supermarkets and also into the central markets, particularly on the eastern seaboard. As I said, we need to adapt to change. There's community expectations, customer expectations. We have a lot of QA, shelf life trials, things like that. We have government expectations about climate, regulatory impacts. I think there's something like 130,000 regulations that could impact on farms. Talk about overgoverned. The farm businesses are on show. Farm businesses are on show. We can't hide our production away in any factories. We're heavily impacted by Mother Nature, and we use large tracts of land. Farms can't be stuck in a time warp. As I said earlier, we're not a zoo exhibit. The regulatory environment needs to be mindful of the costs placed on businesses and the ability of the business to absorb those costs and survive. Planning delays can cost business. If you can't do what you need to do in a timely manner, you can lose your business, basically. We have, if you look just at the very back, you can see this white stuff. That's called hail netting. Some of you might have seen on the telly just over the weekend there was major hailstorms in Ballarat. That was pretty exciting. They showed all the kids mucking around, chucking hail and things like that. It's a disaster. My president at the VFF has had 850 acres of his crops flattened over the weekend. We put the hail net up so that we can survive. We need permits for that sort of activity, and in the Shire of Yarra Ranges you can cover 60% of your property. Too bad about the other 40%. I can assure you, you need to cover your whole business. This is just a look at the different sort of ways that we're doing. As I said, we need to be able to adapt to change. This is, I think the previous slide showed the 1960 style, about 300 trees per hectare, moving up to 2005. That's a high density gala block. This is the jazz block, which is the new variety that we've just planted. We're looking at about 4,000 trees a hectare. At $10 a tree, there's also in that 4 hectare block, there's 80 kilometres of wire, numerous posts. That's why I put up hail mesh, because I've got one hell of an investment per hectare. So that looks like a pole farm, but it's actually got the trees there. And that's our nursery block that's on site. Now I'll just script, this is a view from halfway up the hill. That's our risk management strategy, the hail mesh. It gives us a degree of comfort, and this is a view from my place. And I think it's a beautiful view. Some of the doctors up the top of the hill say that's not such a good idea. Risks to peri-urban farming, is what I see, is unsympathetic community. Some people don't like our hours of operation. Some people don't like our practices. Some people say food's too expensive. We have cost pressures. Some of the rating systems to farmers aren't particularly kind. We need to keep on with our productivity to keep up with the cost pressures. We have the regulatory environment, which I talked about. Land values, we have competing use. There's a lot of golf courses recently gone into the Yarra Valley. We heard someone talk about fair trade. Some people think that that's to do with a lot of third world countries. Have a look at some of our free trade agreements, and then you can discuss about fair trade. I think the people that work for me are entitled to a fair wage. I'm competing against products that come into the country that are, if they're coming from New Zealand, 30% less than what I have to pay a worker, and from Asia, goodness knows what they pay their workers. Other issues we have is that we need to be able to offer accommodation for our workforces. We need to have a willing workforce, and particularly and most importantly, we need to value the food and the people that run our farms. I suppose I can leave you with a couple of questions to ponder. What happens to peri-urban farms that are no longer commercially farmed? What will be the community response, and who will be charged with the land stewardship? Where will we get our food from, and what will be the alternate employment in our areas? And I believe this isn't just an issue for the edge of Melbourne, but can be considered a Victorian and Australian problem with the regional development and all the tree change that's going on. Thank you. We're viable at the moment, but I think that the real issue for me going forward is this, that we have to have profit to come from our farms. Food security is linked to profitability of farms. People need to value their food and have a respect for what we do. We're not all, I'm dressed up today, but I don't go around with a piece of straw hanging out my mouth. We have a hell of a lot of technology that we employ. As you saw, we have a lot of investment in our properties, and we care for our land. We live in the community. We don't want to wreck it. So I think that people need to value farms and the products that we produce. We are looking at moving into other segments of the market. Not all of your fruit that you produce, Mother Nature is kind to. And so there is a segment of the market that we're looking at on-farm sales. Being an apple grower at the moment, the burgeoning cider market is fantastic for getting rid of fruit that no one will buy, basically. But yeah, I don't think the supermarkets need to be demonised. We actually, as farmers, need to work more closely with them. They are excellent in delivering food. Not every community can grow all of the foodstuffs that they need for a nutritious diet within their community. So that's a different take on things.